I have a question for you. I'd like you to comment and share your answers. In your lifetime, in the lower 48, how many times have you seen the Northern Lights, the Aurora Borealis? One thing that is very strange right now is that we have had, I believe, 5 events in 2 years, and this is supposed to be extremely rare. Something that happens only a handful of times every century. Now we are getting new reports that the aurora will be visible again across the United States, not too far south like last time, like we saw a month ago. Still, seemingly very rare, but happening with increased frequency. Now, what does this mean? Well, according to your mainstream scientists, it's just peak solar activity. And the magnetosphere, which protects us from the solar activity, is, well, it's weakening. But it's all normal. Nothing to see here. Everyone calm down. But at the very least, I can entertain some potential hypotheses, theories. And one of these is that a great pole shift is coming. We are overdue. And when this happens, we will not be protected from solar activity, which is unusually strong. Or at least in comparison with our weak magnetic sphere, it seems unusually strong. This can send us back to the Stone Age or cripple the cripple global infrastructure for decades. I don't know how bad it will really get, but I think about all this climate change talk, the efforts that are being made, and I feel like I can connect these dots into a bigger picture of the elites are afraid there is a pole shift coming. Maybe not. Maybe it's all hubbub. Maybe it's just, I don't know, we're bored and looking for something. Or maybe the signs are really there. Well, let's take a look at the latest breaking news. And again, you tell me, does this seem strange? The story I have for you today, opening this segment, flight radiation has reached a 20-year high during the recent solar outburst. And as Airbus has reminded us last week, we're not ready. Wait, what? Flight radiation at a 20-year high? Why are all of these stories popping up, but very few are actually connecting the dots? We've had cell network outages in Europe, in Puerto Rico, power grid failures, and we have seen the Aurora Borealis at this time of year in this part of the country several times. So maybe it's catastrophizing. Maybe this is just something that happens. Or maybe there's a reason why powerful elites are building bunkers in the mountains and prioritizing the expansion of alternative energy sources that can exist in areas where there's no access to oil, while at the same time investing everything in oil. What would the point be? They claim climate change. We got to get off oil. Yet many of these same people that are talking about the need for wind turbines and solar farms still utilizing and investing in oil. Hypocrisy, some say. Or, I have a theory. If there were to be a great pole shift, or the big one, they call it, a Carrington event size coronal mass ejection, just blasting our infrastructure, how would we restore power? If we can't pump the oil, how are we going to fuel our machines? Well, just so happens, thanks to these climate change advocates, we've been building alternate sources of energy which can be placed in areas where there's no oil to deliver energy, or an area where we could pump oil and restore our energy infrastructure if only we had existing energy to do it. That is, if we've got no fuel and our systems are fried, how do we pump the oil we have beneath us? Wind turbine. But let's talk about all this. And we'll start with this story about Airbus saying, we're not ready. Before we get started, my friends, we got a great sponsor for you. It is Crowd Health. Go to joincrowdhealth.com and opt out today, my friends. It's open enrollment, the season where health insurance companies hope you'll blindly sign up again for overpriced premiums and confusing fine print. Don't just take someone else's word. Trust yourself. Take control of your future and join Crowd Health. It's healthcare for under $100. You get access to a team of health bill negotiators, low-cost prescription and lab testing tools, as well as a database of low-cost, high-quality doctors vetted by Crowd Health. And what if something major happens? You pay the first $500, then the Crowd steps in to help fund the rest. It feels like the options we used to have before Obamacare messed everything up. And of course, you'll join the crowd, a group of members just like you who want to help pay for each other's unexpected medical events. The system is betting you'll stay stuck in the same overpriced, overcomplicated mess. And this year, it's even more complicated because most of the ACA subsidies expire, which means your prices are going sky high. So far, Crowd Health members have saved over $40 million in healthcare expenses because they refuse to overpay. This open enrollment, join Crowd Health for good healthcare. Go to joincrowdhealth.com. Use promo code TIM. Just know it's not insurance. Crowd Health is not insurance. Opt out. Take your power back. This is how we win. Joincrowdhealth.com. Here's the story from Gizmodo. Flight radiation reached 20-year high. The sun is currently in its active phase and has been unleashing a steady stream of powerful solar flares, triggering severe geomagnetic storms on Earth. But the consequences of these solar outbursts may be more significant than the occasional satellite disruption or sudden appearance of brilliant northern lights. The sudden appearance of brilliant northern lights is an omen, by the way. It's like a bad sign of things that are coming. In a recent release, the Surrey Space Center in the United Kingdom reported that a burst of solar activity caused a sharp radiation spike, strong enough to be detected at ground level. Early analyses revealed that radiation levels at 40,000 feet, altitudes frequented by commercial airplanes, peaked at 10 times the normal range, surpassing the previous record set nearly 20 years ago. So when they say 20-year high, it's worse than the 20-year high. It's higher. This was the strongest ground-level event we've seen since December of 2006. Clive Dyer, a climate scientist at the University of Surrey, the UK, said in a statement, "We know from historical observations that significantly bigger events are possible, and we need to be ready." The sun follows a 22-year magnetic cycle with solar activity rising and peaking roughly every 11 years. But when conditions are right, solar flares also fire off coronal mass ejections or large plasma expulsions that tamper with Earth's magnetic field. Well, my friends, currently, as of now, from NOAA, we are in a G3 solar storm. This is from the evening of Wednesday, December 3rd, G3 warning. An anticipated coronal hole high-speed stream is having early related effects, and a G3 warning was issued into Wednesday evening. G3 levels were first reached at 3:31. Effects can change quickly, etc., etc. What can be expected? They say geomagnetic activity can vary considerably during storm progression, with intermittent periods of escalation or weakening as the major disturbances in solar winds continues. Monitor SWPC webpage for additional information. How far can auroras be observed? I am showing you this right now, my friends. According to NOAA.gov, the auroras are going to once again, it appears, according to this, it's kind of hard to see because it's a little small. It looks like it's going to reach southern Illinois, St. Louis, Tennessee, not quite Texas, but Nebraska, West Virginia, D.C., Virginia. Wow. Now, why does that matter? I have this video. Ben Davidson. Maybe the video is a little sensational. Shout out to Ben. He is at Sunweatherman. I'm going to play the video for you because there's something interesting he says that I think we should bring up in this context.
All right, I have to be a little quiet because my children are still asleep, but I also had to... I don't know what the hell this is, but do you understand what's happening when we get a story like the top story in the morning news today about them spotting the galactic magnetic reversal and it's local? Do you understand what it's like? What was that, like a week or two ago? Geodesy breaking down? This isn't like, oh, like we're changing atmospheric chemistry. We're talking about the solid Earth changing known patterns that have stood the test of geologic time. What? We're so close. We're like one more big auroral event away from a whole heck of a lot of people being like, okay, wait a minute. I've been on this planet a while. Not used to seeing this. We're so close.
Now, hold on there a gosh darn minute there, Ben Davidson. He posted this 7:19 a.m., And he said one more auroral event from people saying, hold on there a gosh darn minute.
And the scientists are already there. It was about 2 or 3 years ago. I sent you guys the video message from a whole bunch of my friends who need to remain in the shadows because they're the ones with access to information. It's where we get so much of the hints about where to look for stuff. And it's good to be the nexus, but if the network breaks, there is no nexus. You guys might remember I told you that they were saying that they are all getting ready to start dripping this information because they figured out as long as you don't just give away the whole bag in one paper, if you don't try to just tear it all down with one swing, you can let the drops accumulate, and they're accumulating very quickly, and there's about to be a complete shift of, I don't know if the Overton window is the right way to put it, because I think that that's more in terms of like what's politically okay to talk about, but whatever the version of the Overton window is in terms of science and culture and mainstream discussions, even people talking to each other. I don't know if you guys saw the post, but pretty much every AI, when prompted neutrally, will suggest that whatever the Overton window of the rest of worldly discourse is, it is moving in this direction, and there's about to be a cliff that it's going to fall off of.
I don't completely disagree. And what that means is I don't know for sure, but when I saw this video, it got me thinking. Forbes.com, giant new sunspot and X-class solar flare could bring bright auroras. December 1st. Once again from Forbes, Northern Lights alert upgraded. 22 states may see the aurora Wednesday. Hold on a minute. How many times in your life have you seen the aurora in southern United States? Maybe I'm just totally wrong reading this. It's sensationalized. Okay. Interesting either way. Because that's why I ask you to answer this question. Because for me, it's none. It's in the past couple of years. I don't remember any big moments. I think there might have been like one in like the 2000s where they were like, oh yeah, the aurora is going to be like just north of Chicago, maybe Wisconsin or something. It's getting real far. Now it's like every other year, and it's happening again. It just happened a month ago and a year before that. 3 times in like a year and a half? Okay, I'm wrong. Guys, I'm not a scientist. I don't know nothing about no auroras. Saw them when I went to Alaska. Beautiful. What do I know? But it's interesting. With Ben saying we are one more auroral event away from people starting to ask, hold on a minute. I lived my whole life here. This is not normal. But what does it really mean? Perhaps it could just be that we're in a high solar activity period and the magnetosphere is weak a little bit, but it's no big deal. Well, I hate to connect dots that don't need to be connected, but it is true that billionaires are building bunkers, and we don't know why. A simple answer is that when you're a billionaire and you have the money, why not have a bunker? I don't have a bunker, but I do have a storeroom with food and weapons in it. Because why not? You know, I guess. So maybe that's it. Maybe the billionaires are like, I don't know, it's cool to have. Maybe I'll need it, but I got the money, so why not? I thought about this quite a bit when I was discussing with Ben the pole shift theory. And he was saying that if the poles shift, if the axis tilts, it's a catastrophic conspiracy theory, they call it. Conspiracy theory is not the right way to put it. Let me pull it up. Cataclysmic pole shift hypothesis they call pseudoscientific. I always hate the term pseudoscientific. I mean, sure, like flat earth or whatever. But saying like, I don't know, maybe it could happen. There's reason to believe it. I think that's fine. If it happens, there's supposed to be major flooding. And it got me thinking about these climate change theories that they're bringing up. They're saying it's getting hotter. Could it be that our magnetosphere is weakening? The pole shift is coming. Ben is saying The Overton window on science is shifting. It's starting to become more acceptable to discuss these things, and I think so because you can't ignore auroras like this. Got me thinking. Why build a bunker? Do the powerful elites know that something is coming? Maybe it's not this. I don't know. But they're building bunkers. Now, for me, civil war, right? We're concerned about political conflict in this country, so that's clearly what my motivations are for having store food and weapons. I want to make sure that my family is able to eat. That's it. What are the billionaires worried about? Why are they building mountain bunkers? Why on a far-off island in Hawaii? What do they think is going to happen? I started thinking about it. What would I do if I was a world leader and we knew that there was going to be a possible pole shift reversal and we would be sent back to the Stone Age? What would I do? Well, I do a handful of things. One, emergency underground bunkers for continuity of government. So, DC being our capital, I would want mountain bunkers, underground, protected from any catastrophe, elevated so no flooding. Oh, they built Raven Rock and Mount Weather. These are known about. What about the ones we don't know about? Raven Rock and Mount Weather, for those that aren't familiar, it's where the government is expected to go when a major catastrophe happens. They've been around for a long time, recently getting renovated. So, no reason to connect those dots, right? But I would have that. What else would I do? Well, I'd say to my team, okay, after this happens, we maintain continuity of government. What do we do next? Well, we're going to need to restore infrastructure. We need power. All right, well, we have oil. Oil's great, not electric. Yes, but how do we pump the oil without the energy? We can hand pump it, but we'll be starting very small and very slow. So how do we get energy generation so we can get the oil out and start rebuilding our oil infrastructure? Well, sir, wind turbines, solar energy, hydroelectric, these are great ways to generate energy, alternative sources, and we can put them anywhere. I thought about this because of the show Landman. There's a scene where Billy Bob walks out with that young liberal lawyer, and he's got wind turbines, and she says something like, oh, the green energy encroaching on your space, and he goes, not green, alternative. The reason the wind turbines are brought out to the middle of the desert is because they power the oil pumps. If you want to get electricity to these areas where there's no grid, what are you going to do? Build transmission lines? No. You put up the wind turbines, and the wind will help pump the oil. Oil's got a better energy return on energy invested. And then we can see this massive effort to build wind turbines everywhere. Now, I'm not saying the wind turbines are shielded and they'd survive the mass flooding, but the capability to rapidly deploy alternative energy sources would allow us to restore, at least in a limited capacity right away, infrastructure, electric vehicles, and then our oil infrastructure. Maybe there's nothing going on. I don't know. But we're seeing more and more of these stories pop up. For instance, I think I have this one. This is from ESA.int. Swarm reveals growing weak spot in the Earth's magnetic field. It's true, a massive weak spot. It's called the Southern Atmospheric Anomaly, just over Brazil in South America. And they say everywhere, nothing to worry about. It's growing. It's rapidly expanded. Now the size of Europe, or actually bigger, nothing to worry about. Okay, that was a little crude. Maybe there really is nothing to worry about. I don't know. But more and more we're getting news that drips coming out that sound a bit alarming. So I did this. Went to our friend Grok. And it's not perfect, but I asked it. As Ben was pointing out, you go to these ads, you ask it questions, right? Are there any patterns that could indicate the poles will shift soon? And it says shift and soon, depends on your definition of shift and soon, a full geomagnetic reversal or a geomagnetic excursion, which is happening right now. That's right. A geomagnetic excursion is when the poles move a little bit. And right now, they have. Does it mean they're going to flip? I don't know. The last full reversal that we know about is the Brunnes Matsuyama, 780,000 years ago. The average interval in the last 83 million years is around 455,000 years, but we're well past that. Interesting. Being overdue doesn't mean it's likely tomorrow. Statistically, reversal timing looks more like a random process than a clock. Field intensity is down 10% since 1840, now around 15 to 20% weaker than the mid-Holocene peak. Right before a dramatic reversal, it's 50 to 90%. But can I just point out, like, history is condensed and maybe it could take a year or two. And as Ben Davidson predicts, 2040s maybe. It says the magnetic north is moving around 55 kilometers per year towards Siberia. It accelerates before reversal. We are seeing many of these warning signs, but the dipole has only fallen about 20 to 25% from its recent maximum, not the 80 to 90% seen in records right before reversals. So the field is weakening and behaving strangely, but not yet at reversal thresholds, which, if Ben is right, makes sense. But that's why he thinks so. He's just looking at these saying, if this continues, it looks like a pole shift in 2040. They say magnetic north has accelerated from around 15 kilometers a year in the 90s to 55. World magnetic model has been updated in 2019 and again in 2020 because the pole moved faster than predicted. This means GPS and compasses and maps are going to get all wonky, and our instruments and our flight navigation will get all wonky because magnetic north is moving. So when we have maps, and look, if you go north, you'll end up here, but north moves here, you're going to go the wrong direction. Some models predict magnetic north could cross the geographic North Pole into Russia by 2030 or 2040 and keep going. This kind of rapid motion happened during the Lashchamp excursion 41,000 years ago. They say full reversal, possible but not highly probable in the next few centuries. Most experts put probability at around less than 10 to 20% in the next 1,000 years. Bottom line, yes, there are clear patterns that match the early stages of past reversals. We are in an unusual period of geomagnetic restlessness, but none of this data say a flip is imminent on a human timescale. The most likely near-term scenario is continued fast wander and possibly an excursion within centuries. If you're asking because of navigation, satellites, radiation concerns, the bigger immediate issue is the weakening field already letting in more cosmic rays and solar particles rather than an actual flip. Interesting. The weakening field. Like these auroras that we're seeing? I asked ChatGPT, how common is it for the aurora to be seen in the lower 48? It says seeing the aurora in the lower 48 is uncommon, but it does happen, mostly during strong geomagnetic storms. Regional frequencies estimate, blah, blah, blah. I said, how often has the aurora been seen in the south? And it says auroras in the U.S. South are extremely rare and have only happened during the strongest geomagnetic storms ever recorded. Except twice in the past year, right? Weird. The 1859 Carrington event, people saw it as far south as Colombia, Cuba, Jamaica, and Hawaii. That was the big one, they call it. Once every 150 to 200 years. 1921, the New York Railroad storm. Auroras were visible in Texas, Arkansas, Georgia, South Carolina. A once-in-a-century event. We just saw the aurora in Texas. It's been a century. Then we saw it again a year later. That's twice. 1989, as far down as in 1989, as far south as the Midwest. Reports reached Texas, Oklahoma, and Alabama as faint, borderline. May 11th, 2024, it was visible across the entire United States, including Florida, Texas, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, and Louisiana. Maybe once every 20 to 30 years. What about twice in a year? I said, we just saw it in Texas. And he goes, oh, did ya? So I said, here's the link. And it goes, nice. Thanks for sharing that. It's a recent confirmed aurora sighting in Texas. Reports that the northern lights were visible across Texas during a storm. Photos reportedly came as far south as Hill County. So your sighting appears to be part of a genuine documented aurora event. Texas is far south of where auroras are normally visible. As noted by space, weather, and astronomy sources, they only occur during exceptionally strong geomagnetic storms. Because those storms are rare, seeing auroras in Texas remains a once-in-a-lifetime or once-per-decades event for most people in the state. So while such sightings do occasionally happen, they're still rare and noteworthy, especially across a wide part of the state. Your report in the article strengthened the case that 2024 and 25 is a very active aurora period. This recent event adds to a handful of modern examples of Texas aurora sightings, showing that under the right solar conditions, even far southern states can enjoy the northern lights. There's also concern about the southern atmospheric anomaly. Indeed. Should the public be worried? No, mainly satellites and spacecraft. But here's the real connection to the auroras. A weaker magnetic field in one region means the overall magnetosphere can be more easily disturbed. The bottom line is it's real, it's growing. And I mentioned, power has been going out, internet's been getting cut, cell phone networks are failing. Experts say this could be caused by extremely rare solar activity and a weakened magnetosphere. And this is me not getting into the pseudoscientific. This is actually the reports that we've gone over so far. When the cell network goes down, they say, we warned you of this. They say a major solar storm is coming, cell network may be disrupted, power may go out. During this last major storm, when the Aurora was visible, power went out at our studio, and we have emergency backup. Can extreme solar activity cause all of this? Yes, it can. Would a weakened magnetosphere make the effects worse? Absolutely yes. Are these symptoms consistent with major geomagnetic storm? Yes, they are. Is it dangerous for people? No. But for technology, yes. What you're describing is consistent with a significant geomagnetic storm impacting a modern dependent society. The grid and communication glitches, solar maximum peaking. I said, could the big one happen at any moment? And yes, it could. It doesn't say it's likely. But it could happen suddenly. How likely is it? 0.5 to 1% chance per year. That's actually a really high chance, to be completely honest. Are we in a time when risk is higher? Yes. We are in solar maximum. Is there any sign the big one is imminent? No. No signs. But it could happen at any moment. The Carrington event. 1859, solar cycle 10. The biggest in recorded history. And we're overdue. So it could happen at any moment. Will it? We don't know for sure. So whether the poles are going to shift, whether the magnetosphere is going to collapse, honestly, we don't know. What we do know is it feels strange to be getting so many auroras in the United States. Like, obviously, Alaska is, but I mean like the lower 48. And I thought it was interesting that Ben said we're one major aurora event away from people saying, wait a minute. I've been living here my whole life, and this is not normal. But again, not normal doesn't mean imminent chaotic disaster or pole reversal or whatever. But maybe. And so then I ask these questions of what are the elites preparing for? Maybe it's just civil war. Maybe it's World War III. Maybe it's a disease. Maybe it's literally nothing. Yeah, maybe they're just rich and they're like, bro, I can afford to spend $200 million in a bunker. I don't care. So they did. Yeah. Or maybe they know something. Maybe Ben's right. The government's going to start dripping out some of this information. And the reason why they would withhold it, because people would run for the hills. If the president came out today and said, ladies and gentlemen, there is a coming solar event that will send us to the Stone Age, people are going to stop working. And that's bad. If we want to be able to rebuild, if a disaster does happen, we need to build now emergency bunkers. We need to safely store solar panels in large amounts, wind turbines, hydroelectric turbines, tidal turbines. You guys know about tidal power? When the tide comes in, it spins a turbine, generates electricity. We would need these things prepared and capable of being deployed. But if everybody panics and stops working on these things, you won't be ready. So I wonder, the mass migration pushes, maybe it lines up, or maybe it's just, I don't know, to a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you want to believe this is going to happen, then you can connect whatever dots you want. And that's why I say, I hate to connect dots that don't need to be connected. Maybe, we're in solar maximum. It happens. The magnetosphere is a little weak now, but it'll improve, whatever. It happens. Mainstream science says, dude, chill, nothing's going to happen. I guess the question is, do you trust the government? And if the answer is yes, then carry on, good sir. And if the answer is no, I suppose the response is, don't be crazy. Live your life like normal. Do your work. Carry on, good sir. Because if it is to come anyway, not a whole lot you can do. But what I can say is, there are simple things in life. West Virginia's great. If a great flood does happen, West Virginia ain't going nowhere. It's elevated. But maybe it probably won't flood anyway, so who cares? There's mountains and good work, and you're close to a bunch of major metros. So the way I see it is, I moved to West Virginia. I got emergency food. I got weapons. Maybe a civil war. Maybe it's World War III. Maybe it's a pole shift. Maybe aliens comes. Maybe Godzilla rises from the ocean. Either way, I'm living my life, my best life. You know, the worst case scenario would be actually aliens, Godzilla, and a mass flood all at the same time and zombies. I'm okay. If there really is going to be some kind of catastrophe, the best case scenario is I'm in a good spot. But if you believe in the craziest of hypotheses, excuse me, what's the harm in being in a place like West Virginia? Drive to D.C. an hour away. There's Winchester and Frederick within, 20, 30 minutes. And if nothing happens and we're all just a bunch of paranoid crackpots, I live in a great place. Great property, good food, lots to do. Where do you live? I wonder. They talk about flooding, climate change, but they buy beachfront properties too. So I'm not saying the elite know everything. I will say there's normalcy bias and optimism bias. And that a lot of people don't want to believe catastrophes could happen, but they do. We know they do. The question is, will it happen? I don't know. Are you going to bet on it? Maybe not a good bet to make. We'll see. I'm going to wrap it up there, my friends. Smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Stay tuned. More to come. And we'll see you all in the next segment.